Walk with me.
The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressions for the upright. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. There is treasure to be desired in oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. He that followeth after righteousness and mercy findeth life, righteousness, and honor. A wise man scaleth the city of the mighty, and casteth down the strength of the confidence thereof. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. The proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath. The desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor. He covereth greedily all the day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when he bringeth it with a wicked mind? A false witness shall perish, but the man that heareth speaketh constantly. A wicked man that hardeneth his face, but as for the upright, he directeth his way. There is no wisdom nor understanding nor counsel against the I am. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the I am. Proverbs chapter 21, verses 16 through 31. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Those of you that have been with me since the beginning, those of you that have been with me here and there's about, and those of you that have just subscribed, as well as those of you who are about to subscribe, and even those of you who are just viewing for the first time or just pop in and out here and there. We thank God for you, calling those things that are not as though they are. Yes, you're walking with Mr. Clay. I'm Mr. Clay, and we thank God for you, and you. We thank God for his mercy and his favor. Yes. To those who obey his commandments, statutes, and laws. We're not talking about half-handed laws that the 27 books of letters have told you, which move here and there and don't tell you where they get the information from. But the information that they're talking about, the information that you should know, is that of the law. And you understand this is to be a tool of deception for the clergy of that time, and even today they use the New Testament as the tool of deception, even that blasphemous and abomination to the Most High, and that to have a God before him. Even your so-called demigod, who you call Jesus, Yahushua, Yahusha, Yahweh, or should I, what you call it, Yeshua. That's it, Yeshua, not Yahweh. Okay, we understand what you mean those things for. That is an abomination against the first commandment. But nevertheless, we're in Nehemiah chapter 9 of Nehemiah. We understood that in chapter 8 how that the Most High had the Levites and everybody was teaching people the law. This is a prerequisite to revive and restore even the children of Jacob. To revive and restore. You cannot have restoration until there's a restoration of law, statutes, and even the commandments, yes. The covenant, period. There is no new covenant. There's only the covenant. There's no first covenant. There's only the covenant. And if he makes a new covenant, that would be in a different era, a different time, after things are done. But it reads, and now on the 24th day of this month, the children of Israel were assembling with fasting and with sackcloth upon and earth upon them. In other words, throwing dirt. Some of you have those faces ashes. The face look white. You think they were in witchcraft or juju. No, they're not. They're in mourning. They're in seeking the Most High. Even in Africa, they were doing these things. Yes, fasting. And the seed of Israel separated themselves from all strangers and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. They stood up with their hands and their head bowed and confessed their sins and iniquity of their fathers. This is what they did, excuse me. And they stood up in their place and read in the book of the law of the I am their God, 1/4 part of the day. As you read the book of the law, you can say, well, Lord, Most High, even the I am that I am, I committed this here. I've done this here. As you read in the book of the law, you confessing, as you name forth each law. This is what God requires of you. This is how you measure what you have done, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Even if you've lain with a woman and you call yourself, you did not tell anyone. In the field, both of you were unmarried, yes, given that, we'll give that. She committed whoredom while you were whoremongering. This is what the word was back then, as far as the English would go. Fornication is a translation of the Greek. Whore and whoremonger is a translation of the Hebrew, if you would get that straight. Now, because none of it even matches what, if you say the word, person that speaks the language know what you're talking about. But now you have to it's translated into a language, and some of these might be way off. We don't know. But we know that the law standeth sure. Yes, we know that. Now, he says, now they confess their sins and iniquity of their fathers. Yes, what they have done, not only to the idolatry or idolatrous ways. Now today we have a lot of confessing to do, that you worshiped a man over God, regardless of how they fixed it up. You worshiped a man over God. You put a God before God, regardless of whether you called him not God or not. You have worshiped him. You bowed before him. You prayed before him. Before you even pray before the I am, or whoever you call him, Yahweh, Yahuwah, whatever, Sanini Nanini, Tata Nzambi, you put a son, a demigod, you put something before him that you thought or thinking, but it's a deception unto you. It's a great deceiver that deceives the whole earth by this doctrine and by this demigod. The world has committed idolatry. Not only the world, but specifically the children of Jacob. Now here we go again. And they stood up in their places and read in the book of the law of the I am, their God, 1/4 part of the day, a quarter of the day. Another 4 part they confessed and worshiped the I am, their God. In other words, they had their hands lifted up and their heads bowed down, talking to the Most High, confessing. We have been idolatrous. We have been idolatrous, and in this day we will say we have been idolatrous in that we have taken on 27 books that they have attached to the Torah, the Septuagint, the Pentateuch, or however the translation that you received of the Torah or of the ancient Hebrew writings, as far as the law that was handed to Moses. We worship this Jesus and whatever other name you give him. We worship these statues and idols that have attached themselves to the doctrine of the ancients, even that which was delivered to Moses. Yes, this is our repentance. This is the only way we can be restored to the Most High, is that we confess, holding the law in our hands and putting ourselves to the mirror of the law. Not no New Testament. There is no mirror in no New Testament. It doesn't tell you what to do or what not to do. And they gave them understanding before they confessed. They told them this was what this law means. This is what this law means. the Levites and everybody gave them understanding. What does it mean in the time that they stand in now, as far as the time after the Persian Empire? What is what they did? Then stood up upon the stairs the Levites, Yeshua and Bani and Kadmiel and Shebaniah and Bunni and Sherebiah and Bani and Shinani, and cried with a loud voice unto the I am their God. Then the Levites, Yeshua and Kadmiel and Bani and Hashabaniah and Sherebiah and Hodiah and Shebaniah and Pethaniah said, stand up and bless the I am your God forever and ever, and blessed be thy glorious name, which is exalted above all blessing and praise. They were worshiping God. Yes, this is what we're talking about. Not as your Catholic church that wings around a smoke, or your Baptist church that goes around shouting all over the place with a loud, boisterous, rhythmic tone, and not as your Episcopal churches and all this other stuff that is really paganism. They're pagans. They're no better than the Buddhist. They're pagans. Your Church of God in Christ. They're pagans. Deceived into paganism by the deception of the New Testament. Well, it's got the law in there. Yes, it does. The truth, the lie is always going to wear the truth, and this lie is very good. And you've been taught this since a child, and you can't see the difference, because some of you have stepped up in your pride because of your position in your place of paganism. Some of you are leaders in your place of paganism. You cannot see for looking. There is no Jesus. There is no New Testament. This has been a concoction. Just like they took the gods of Egypt, the paganistic gods of Egypt, and sublimated them into their own ways. So did they do the Torah. They decided that didn't work. If you want to understand that, read The Discoverers by Daniel Bornstein. It really gives you what their reasoning was for turning to Christianity or to the paganism and concocting this book. Give you great insights. The Chinese just kept their paganism. They said, we will keep your book. It gave them great wisdom as far as morality. But they told those Christian monks, you can go. We don't want you. You don't live what your books say. According to Daniel Bornstein, yes. Now, he says, now, then the Levites, in verse 5, Yeshua, Kadmiel, Bani, and Hashabaniah. Now, this J, when King James first authorized his book, this was a Y. Or an I, Ishua, or something. If you can go back that far. Now, Kadmiel, Bani, and Hashabaniah, and Sherebiah, and Hodiah, and Shebaniah, now, and Pethaniah said, stand up and bless the I am your God forever and ever. Blessed be thy glorious name, which is exalted above all blessing and praise. According to how in Hebrew would do it, or should I say an Israelite, a child of Jacob, would bless the name of the Most High. Thou, even thou, art God alone. Oh, they knew something. He said, you God alone. There is no Jesus with you. There is no demigod born of a woman in heaven, or where your realm is. There was no blood shed for me. If the blood was shed, it was shed in thanksgiving. Shed because of the thanksgiving that you did when our parents sinned in the Garden of Eden. An animal had to be slaughtered. His blood shed on the ground. His coat taken. and covered the two who have transgressed whatever that transgression was. Even the angel that did this was not what you call Satan or who you think is Satan. This angel or this spirit has a name. In the book of Jasher, in the book of Jubilees, his name is made manifest and known. But you don't want to hear that because your masters told you not to read those books, so you won't read them. They're furious books. They're nefarious books. Just like your 27 books of that New Testament is nefarious above all, in that it blasphemes the first commandment. Yes. Now, let's continue. He says, thou art God alone. They changed it to Lord. Woo. In other words, there's no one beside. Even God declares that himself. The I am declares that himself. There is no one beside me. Nobody to be my counselor. He declares that himself. For those of you who have read. Now, thou hast made heaven, the heavens of heavens, with all their hosts, the earth and all things that are therein, the seas and all therein, and thou preservest them all. The hosts of heaven worship thee. How do they worship thee? Obedience, keeping the laws, statutes, commandments, and ordinances, which he has commanded each thing all the way down to the last molecule, the last atom. They know what they were created to be and do, except for man. He said, 7, thou art the I am, the God who didst choose Abram. He didn't say no Abraham. He said Abram here. What happened? They changed Abram's name to Abraham. They do it for ownership, to do it to identify with this name. Same thing with all the other names that they have changed in the Bible. And broughtest him forth out of Ur of the Chaldees, and gaveth him the name Abraham. No. That wasn't supposed to be. This is an insertion. Brought him forth out of Ur of the Chaldees. Was supposed to be a period right there. And thou foundest his heart to be faithful before thee, and madest a covenant with him, to give the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites and the Girgashites, to give it, I say, to his seed, and has performed thy words, for thou art righteous. Did he just take this land from these people? No. They took the land and put in a land that was not allotted to them. The Canaanites, he was told by his father Ham, that is not your land, and it will not go well with your children if you dwell in that land. For more information on that, read the book of Jubilees and Jasher. You want more? Now, he says, and did see affliction of our fathers in Egypt, and heard us their cry by the Red Sea. Well, however they crossed, some say the Reed, the Red, it doesn't matter. They crossed the sea somewhere. Now, the biggest thing is that you can keep the commandments. All this history is for to help you to understand and try to find your way back to the Most High. That's what that is. Because he has cast you out, Judah, Israel. He's cast you out. The land had vomited you up, pushed you out of it. Now you're wandering around like vagabonds with no place, few in number, persecuted everywhere you go and don't know why. You blame it on this and blame it on that, and you still don't know why. You deny even Deuteronomy chapter 28, many of you, because you have been deceived by that very scripture that comes against you, that you might forget the I am your God. His wrath is against you, but yet his hand, he made a way. He made a way, and that he kept the heathen into this Bible, or these books that are collected that we call a Bible. Not the 27 letters. They attach that on to there to make you forget him more. To make you blasphemous and make you wonder more because you love lies. Why is this one of the major religions of the world? Because people love lies. Christianity, Islam, and all the other ones that are added to it. People love lies. You love belonging to a big group, don't you? You love being called by a man's name. Oh, my pastor so-and-so. Instead of the name of the Most High. You love this. Yes, it makes you feel real good, doesn't it? Enoch has already declared what people like this will go. Put not your trust in the arm of man, because that's what you're doing. Your trust is in the arm of man. You think that your numbers would validate your lies, but it does not. Not before God. When you die, you will definitely see. Now, and show us signs and wonders, verse 10, upon Pharaoh and all his servants and all the people of the land, for thou knowest that they dwelt proudly against them, just like they do today in the U.S. and South America, even in Africa. Those of you that are there, they deal proudly against you. Their children deal proudly against you, and their children's children shall do the same until the time that little rock is going to be hewn out of a mountain, chipped out of a mountain, and destroy this world system. The wars are happening among the beasts. They're happening. They've been happening for a long time. It's nothing new. But when that stone is chipped out of that mountain, you remember, it takes some effort to chip a stone out of a great mountain. And that stone is so small, that big old, in other words, there's so many of you. But yet this little stone is going to crush this world system just by at its feet. Not by might, nor by power, but by the Spirit, which is called God. Which is called the I Am, the Holy One of all the universe, not just Israel. And verse 10, show its signs and wonders upon Pharaoh and all his servants and all the people of his land. And for thou knowest that they dwelt proudly against him. So didst thou get thee a name as it is this day. And thou didst divide the sea before them, that they went through the midst of the sea on dry land, and their persecutors thou threwest into the steps as a stone into the mighty waters. Moreover, there go that word stone. A small, tiny stone going to destroy. These little old people going to destroy us. We got nukes. God don't care about your nukes. God don't care about your missiles that scatter and kill, and the only thing it can do is erase flesh. That's it. That's small. Thou camest down, verse 13, upon Mount Sinai, and speaketh with them from heaven, and gaveth them right judgment, true laws, and good statutes and commandments. Yes, he used his servant Moses. He gave you these things that you already have, really, and just helped you to recognize this is what I'm judging you by. The I Am just gave it to you. He said, hey, look, this is a measure. This is how you can look in the mirror and see yourself. Not no mirror dimly, but look in the mirror and see how ugly you are. I told you fair is fair, and I will deal with you fairly. And that's what he did. He said, you see a murderer, murder him, kill him. You see a rapist, kill him. You see one that blasphemes me and takes my name in vain, kill him. That's what God says, kill him. But you fail to do these things. You fail to do these things. You fail to do these things. You rather be racking with wine, your mind full of evil. Laying with your concubines and your wives and your girlfriends and committing all manner of whoremongering as well as whoring. You're so confused, you sit up there and say, well, I'm going to date. It only means whoredom. You're going to play the whore with some man. You say you're going to date, and some man say, I'm going to date you, or let's go out to dinner, and then you can whore for me, and I'd be a whoremonger with you. That's what you're saying. No different. You're no different than a prostitute. But you was just cheap. He gave you a meal, so you give him your body. Your body is worth much more than that. That's why it's called the dowry of virgins. The honor, not only to honor the virgin for how she keeps herself for you in marriage, man. This is why you should honor that. But no, the Satans and the heathen come against you and say, oh, you ain't got no man yet. This is why you ain't got no man. And then they tell the man, oh man, you ought to be sowing your raw oats. What does it matter? Few minutes. What is it all about? Family, children. That's what it's all about. And then your pleasure after you done grown them up and still got your wives or wife or concubines or whatever you have. That's what it's about. Let us continue. And makest thou known unto them thy holy Sabbath, a rest day. And then the heathen comes and deceives you. You think you got it all. You know what God says. Oh, the Sabbath's on the Sunday. It's on the Saturday. It's on neither. It's on the full moon. No, it's not on no full moon. The new month. We go by the new month. No. You just as foolish as the one who keeps the Sabbath on Sunday. Out of darkness came light. A baby comes out of darkness and there's light. Everything before it is born, before it is created, is in darkness before you can see it. It is new when you just see it. The new moon, how foolish can you be? The whole world and all the creation knows when the new moon is. But yet, even an ass knows his owner. But you do not know the times of the Most High. He created the sun and the moon that you might have your way of telling time. Not only the time to plant and the time to reap, but also the times of a woman's cycle is there too. The time when she ovulates is there in the moon and the suns and the stars. All these work in cohesion some kind of way. Don't ask me because I don't know. But either way, this is what happened. You listening? Yeah, he over there listening. But either way, that's what it is. You cannot have God and a demigod. You cannot have a woman who would otherwise be deemed as a whore, or either burnt or deleted by her people according to the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. You cannot have God going against his own commandments toward the watchers and his holy angels. And to say your Yahushua, your Jesus was born of a virgin. Nevertheless, even the throne of David has ceased, that your real and true king will come to you. No more will you dictate to God and tell him we want a king that is a man. That is what that comes from. It's idolatry. God knows that. He knew that the children of Judah, the children of Israel, rejected him, and that they chose flesh and blood over he who holds all things. And he had proven to you this does not work. Even to this day, Kenya have done something like the ancient kings of Judah, and that he destroys his own people because they will not bow to him. But either way, here we go. Now, thou camest down upon Mount Sinai and speakest with them from heaven and gave them right judgments and true laws. True laws. These laws that be in you, as I said. Good statutes and commandments. You've given us all of this. But we threw it behind our backs and said, to hell with God. That's what we said. And I'm saying it just like you are putting it when you do these 27 letters. When you go and worship idols and different beads and all these other things that you do. Oh, you ain't left out Islam. You are nothing but a derivative from the Catholic Church. That's all you are. Look at your hijabs. Right after the Catholic Church. Look at your beads. Right after the Catholic Church. Look at the way you say things. Yes, it's a lot of wisdom in it, but look at the deception that comes with it. And then, most of all, the angel Gabriel. But yet you wonder, why do we suffer? In verse 14, we're going to continue and finish this up. And made us known to them by thy holy Sabbath, and commanded them precepts, statutes, and laws by the hand of Moses thy servant. Yes, he did. And gave us them bread from heaven for their hunger, and brought us forth water out of the rock for their thirst, and promised them that they should go into and possess the land which thou hadst sworn to give them. Out of all this, they went before the Canaanites and feared for the size of their enemy. The strength of their enemy. It's better to die at the hand of your enemy than to fear because God told you to do it. Because that would put God at fault, not you. And he's not going to let his word fall to the ground. But they feared and turned away backwards and let those people live, even their babies live. Now look at you. Babies fed to alligators. Babies ripped out your stomachs of the pregnant women. Look at you. Do you think God is all that so personal with you that he has compassion upon you and your filthy, nasty ways? No, he don't. He do not. Verse 16, but they and our fathers dealt proudly and hardened their necks and hearkened not to thy commandments. But the way of the heathen is so good. Look at the loud music. You had the loud music anyway when you danced before the Most High. That little tuck you get in your back, and when you get to swinging and you get that ugly face and you get to stepping and you're proud and your joy. Yes. That's praise toward the Most High. It depends on what your heart is doing it for. And then you have the twerk. The twerk came from out of Africa. I can't. You can't get me with that, women. That twerk came from Africa. They've been doing it for a long time. That is really pagan, really. That type of twerk. It's a sexual thing. Well, she twerks her back in. You notice many of the tribes don't sexualize the breast too much, but the bottom lower parts is what they sexualize. Yes, that's what they do. Not that they're gay or anything, but that's just how they sexualize it, from the back end and the front. This is what they do. But yet you have adopted those ways too, thinking you're getting away. No, you're not getting away with it. Yet you are in thy, he says in verse 18, let's go to 17. And they refused to obey and were mindful of thy wonders thou didst among them, but hardened their necks. Just like the Pharaoh did, they hardened their hearts, and in their rebellion appointed a captain to return to their bondage. That was when they told Aaron to make the molten calf, the bee god. He said, no, it wasn't God that delivered you. This God delivered you out of Egypt. He says, but thou art a God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, of great kindness, and forsook them not. No, he didn't. He didn't forsake them. He said, though my anger is against you, my wrath is against you, my hand is stretched out still. He said, I'm still going to tear you up. I'm still going to allow you to be deleted. I'm still going to allow you to go through these traffic stops and have your messed up things happen to your children and even yourself. because you will not hearken to my statutes, commandments, and laws. Right now we have no Levites. All you have is the commandments. That's it. God knows your heart that you want to practice these things and do it. But these things can only be done in an Israelite state. Everything shut down on the Sabbath. Everything shut down on the feast days, and nobody lose a dime for their profits. Yes, but no, you do things the heathen way. We're going to have our Sabbaths on Saturdays. We're going to have our feast days according to the is not real way. Yes. He says, yes, thou in thy manifold mercy in 19 forsookest them not in the wilderness. The pillar of the cloud departed not from them by day to lead them in the way, neither the pillar of fire by night to show them light and the way wherein. And you go about, you have your English curtains around, should I say fringes, or whatever you English call them, fringes around your bottom, looking like a curtain of some knight of the medieval times. And then you have your boxes on your head looking crazy. Then you sit up here, some of you don't even know what the heck you're doing with these dreads. Have you taken a vow of the Nazarites? That's what that is, a vow of a Nazarite. Are you Samson? Do you have any special powers from the Most High? You just like the way you look, don't you? Yeah, just braid your hair or whatever you're going to do. But other than that, men, no, locks are locks. Well, we can't go after the colonizer. No, we can't. If you want your locks, keep them. God will judge. But you have not taken the vow of the Nazarites. For those of you who do this thing excessively long. He says, thou, in 19, in thy manifold mercies, forsook them not in the wilderness. The pillar of cloud departed, evil and unclean people. It departed not from them by day to lead them in the way, neither the pillar of fire by night to show them light. So they street lamps. It's very dark out there. And the way therein they should go. Thou gavest also thy good spirit to instruct them, and withheldest not thy manna from their mouth, and gavest them water and their thirst. Yea, 40 years didst thou sustain them in the wilderness, so that they lacked nothing. Their clothes waxed not old, and their feet swelled not. Moreover, thou gavest them kingdoms and nations, and didst divide them unto the corners, and they possessed the land of Sihon, and the land of the king of Heshbon, and the land of Og, the king of Bashan. They failed to go to hear the reading of the law. They failed, after they read the leading, to transfer those things to their children on a continual basis, that their children might not forget the law. It's not about that, crossing the Red Sea and all those are just to help you understand and have confidence in the Most High. But to know the law, what does He require of you? The book of the law tells you this. What does God require of you? Verse 23, and their children also multipliest thou as the stars of heaven, and broughtest them into the land concerning which thou hadst promised their fathers that they should go in to possess it. It was theirs, yes, it was theirs, the land of Shem. That whole area from the Mediterranean all the way down the end of the Red Sea is all Shem on this side of the Euphrates. He says, now, so the children went in and possessed the land, and thou subduest before the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, and gavest them into their hands with the kings and the people of the land, that they might do with them as they would. And they took strong cities and fat land, and possessed houses full of good, dig wells, dig vineyards and olive yards, and fruit trees in abundance. So they did eat and were filled and became fat and delighted themselves in great goodness. Nevertheless, they were disobedient and rebelled against thee, and cast thy law behind their backs. We talked about that. And slew thy prophets which testified against them, to turn them to thee. Maybe that's why I'm shadow banned. And they brought great provocations. Therefore thou deliverest them into the lands of their enemies, who vexed them, and in time of their trouble, when they cried unto thee. Even to this day this is done. Thou heardest them from heaven, and according to thy manifold mercy, thou gavest them saviors. Oh, saviors. Oh, here we go. So you say your Jesus is a savior. There are many saviors. My goodness. Many saviors. What you have is an idol. Your Yahushua, your Yahusha. God don't have no demigod. He creates. He's a lawgiver. And now he shall be the judge. Excuse me. Who saved them out of the land of their enemies. But after they had rest, they did evil again before thee. Therefore leftest thou them in the land of their enemies, even to this day. You're still in the U.S. You're still in South America. Your land over there in Argentina and all that. And then you got Europe and all these other places, Spain, Portugal. Many of you are still there in the land of your ancestors' captivity. Africa, you're still not there. Still bowing down with a mind toward worshiping the colonizer and hating yourself. This is the curse of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Not only has this curse passed on to the children of Israel, but also to all the children of Noah. Oh. He says now in verse 27, who vexed them, and in the time of their trouble, when they cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and according to thy manifold mercy, thou gavest them saviors. So you had Messiah, Mashiachs. He gave them Mashiachs. Oh, you have your Hamamino, your Shah, Mashiach stuff. Is that what you got? It sounds so good when you say it. Whatever. I don't say that crap. Beside the Most High, there is no Mashiach. No Savior. Moses was a Mashiach. Elijah was a Mashiach. Elisha was a Mashiach. Hezekiah was a Mashiach. Nehemiah a Mashiach. Ezra a Mashiach. David a Mashiach. Oh, you just blow it out the water. Sure, I had an explosion sound bite. That blows the whole 27 letters out the water. It's gone. Gone. You stand believing a lie. Period. Who saved them out of the hands of the enemy. What is the purpose of a Mashiach? To save you out of the hand of your enemies. Abraham Traore is a Mashiach. Goita, President Goita, is a Mashiach. Yes, a Mashiach. Thomas Sankara was a Mashiach. Gaddafi was a Mashiach. But what did Dr. Martin Luther King save you from? You still in the same situation. But either way. But after they had rest, they did evil again before thee. They had rest. They didn't care. They're still listening to those spirits who have swayed the thoughts of men's hearts. Therefore leftest thou them in the hands of their enemies, so that they had dominion over them. The tail has become the head. Yet when they returned and cried unto thee, thou heardest them for heaven. My hand stretched out thee, and many times did thou deliver them according to thy mercy. What they're doing now, yes, and testified against them that thou mightest bring them again into thy law. The books of the law. The Levites knew them. They were just as corrupt as you and your preachers are. Yet they are your imams and all this other stuff. And hearken not unto thy commandments, but sinned against thy judgment, which if a man do, he shall live in them. Now see, this is where you had Paul deceive you. If you be circumcised, you have to keep the whole. You got to keep the whole law anyway. And withdrew the shoulder and hardened their neck and would not hear, because things were going better. We already picked God. We got our grapes and our women, and we can do what we want. We can lay with who we want. He ain't doing nothing. We ain't gonna die. Just like they said with Adam. He ain't dead yet. It wasn't the fact that Adam was dead while yet he lived. Just as many of us are now. All of us now. In other words, mortal in the English terminology means death doomed. You were born and you're going to die. Period. I don't care how you try to mask it up, trick yourself, play the three denial things. But you might as well just accept it. Keep it in the back of your mind. It's just a matter of when and a matter of how you're going to die. Period. Grow up. It's going to happen. And so they forsaked him. He said, nevertheless, for thy great mercies thou, in verse 31, thou didst not utterly consume them nor forsake them, for thou art a gracious and merciful God. Now therefore our God, great and mighty and terrible, a God who keepeth covenant and mercy. Yes, God does keep this. Let not all the troubles seem little before thee that have come upon us, on our kings and on our princes and our priests and on our prophets and on our fathers and on our people since the time of the kings of Assyria unto this day. Howbeit, yes, Assyria was the first one to take them out. Howbeit thou art just in all that is brought upon us, for thou hast done right. Not to this generation. Why did God allow us to go into slavery? Because God was just. Why did God allow all of them to kill all the people all over the world, in Africa and all over the place? Because God is just. Why did God allow my son to get killed with a traffic stop? Because God was just. Why did God allow my daughter to sit up there and get the baby ripped out of her stomach? Because God is just. You will not keep his commandments, statutes, and ordinances. Neither your children. You've taught them not to do so. Now, you call yourself even more just than God? Are you crazy? Learn and be wise. Neither have our kings or princes or our priests, fathers, kept thy law, nor hearkened unto thy commandments and thy testimony, wherewith thou didst satisfy against them. For they have not served thee in their kingdom and in their great goodness that thou givest them in the large and fat land which thou gavest before them. In other words, you had everything anybody could ever hope for. But yet you were foolish. And now you say God is evil. No, you don't even know what evil is. You've been so manipulated by enemies. Evil is that which cometh against a person. You can be evil against the evil. Yes, God created evil. Retribution. Vengeance on you. Chastisement. Yes, that is evil to you. God don't play by your rules. He don't play by your having to excuse and accuse. He don't play by that. But those who have chastised you and come against you, I hate to see what the end gonna be. He's gonna harden some hearts, and you're gonna see how cowardice they really are. Oh, yes, you are. Some of you gonna walk over their bodies like it's walking over a forest full of downed trees. The stench gonna come up to your nostrils, and you're not gonna be able to stand it. Then you're gonna fall down and worship God. because he has subdued your oppressor. Behold, we are servants this day, and for the land that thou gavest unto our fathers to eat the fruit thereof, and the good thereof, behold, we are servants in it. And it yieldeth much increase unto the kings, whom thou hast set over us because of our sins. Also they have dominion over our bodies, and rule over our cattle at their pleasure, and we are in great distress. And because of all of this, we make a sure covenant, and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests seal unto it. And if we do those things, repent and turn to the one true God and his laws, statutes, and commandments, and shun and burn that second book of idolatry and abominations, then we will have
Walk with me.